Okay, good morning, 8th graders. It's wonderful to be with you again. I trust you had a real nice Easter Sunday with your family. I know I did. It's always nice to celebrate the holidays with loved ones. Welcome to week 3 of distance learning, and welcome to basically our third graded artistic piece. I really hope that you're keeping up with the assignments and posting them every Friday by 3 p.m. And that's likely not to change. So you can trust that every end of the week will mean that you will be posting your artistic grade from that particular week. This week celebrates on Wednesday, April 15th, the commemorated birthday of my favorite artist, Leonardo da Vinci. And so I thought we would celebrate this week not only by giving you some factual information about him as an artist and person, but also by honoring him through some portraiture. So that's what this week's assignment is going to be. A portrait of Leonardo da Vinci. Now, relax, because it's not going to be as in-depth as the portraits that we did in school when we were still all there together. Those were scale drawings that we spent a great deal of time on, as you know, and we put a grid not only on our reference photo, but also onto the larger piece of drawing mat board upon which we were sketching out the finer details of what we saw on our original computer page. This is going to be a little faster, if you will, and probably not as detailed. So fear not, you're not going to have to spend as much time on this particular portrait as you did on the one that we left in school. Okay, now I still want you to do a good job, and I know that you will, but it's going to flow a little more freely and probably with not as much effort as you had to put into your scale drawings, your grid drawings from school. Okay, so here's my number 2 pencil. There's my large pink eraser, and I have a blending stump here just in case we need it. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I've got my 8.5 by 11, or this actually might be 9 by 12, but be that as it may, I have my drawing page here, and I'm going to turn it vertically because just as your phone puts you into portrait mode, so too can your drawing paper put you into portrait mode. So this is kind of like landscape here, where we've got, a horizon from which to work, and I'm going to shift it over into portrait mode. Okay, and once in portrait mode, rather largely on the paper, I'm going to start with an oval. Okay, and the look I'm going for here is going to be a slight turn of the head. So it's going to be a little more narrow at the chin and a little wider at the top of the head. Now, you can see just by the way that I'm gripping my pencil that I'm going with light gestural lines, and I'm kind of mapping it out until I get to the place where I feel comfortable that a particular line should be. Okay, so I kind of like this wider arc at the top. Therefore, I'm going to erase some of these earlier gestural marks. Okay, and all of this is rather light because at this very early stage, I don't know what I'm going to keep, and I don't know what I'm going to eliminate. So keep it real light in terms of drawing pressure on your pencil, and that way we can make changes on the fly as we work through the project for the week. Okay? Alright, let's see here. Now I'm going to split the face into 4 quadrants. And as I had indicated, I want there to be a slight turn of Master Leonardo's face to the side. So that's why I'm drawing this particular line off center, because the majority of his face will be on this side, and to the right of that line you'll see maybe less of his face. Okay, now about halfway through we're going to go with a horizontal line. And I'm pretty sure we had this discussion before we left regular school. The reason we're putting this line halfway through the oval is because that's exactly where your eyeballs sit. Halfway between your chin and the top of the head. The reason they don't appear to look halfway, when you look at somebody and you glance at their eyes, you say to yourself, hey, they really don't look halfway. Well, that's because you got a bunch of hair up here covering up the forehead and the top of the head. And so the eyes at first glance don't appear to be halfway, but if you really map it out and break it down, they are truly halfway. And you know, with bald guys like myself, I don't have any hair up here, so when you look at my eyes, they're a little more noticeable as far as being halfway. Okay? Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We've got our 4 quadrants mapped out. I am going to put in the hat or cap, if you will, that Leonardo often wore in everyday life. Okay? And this cap is going to cover up much of his forehead and much of the top part of his head. Okay? And these lines are going to end up being good reference marks for us. So we will refer to these quadrant lines as we move along in this particular portrait. Okay, so here I am working on the bill to his cap. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly curve it and bend it to the right. So it arcs across his forehead, and as you can see over on this side, it bumps down a little lower than this horizontal reference line, and over here to the right it bends just a tad higher than that reference line there. Okay? Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work that bill off of the face to the right a little bit. And over here I'm going to start with my first wrinkle to the cap, okay? Because it's made of fabric, and so it's going to twist and bend and wrinkle a little bit, okay? So here's the front part to the bill of the cap, and I'm back to holding my pencil more like a piece of chalk to give me those nice gestural lines, and this line is going to stay roughly on the same plane and follow the same path as this line. They don't quite meet because I want to give the impression that this is one big wrinkle. Okay. Now over here at this little corner piece here, I'm going to further develop the bill of the cap by adding another little line. Okay, and if you want to relate this to, say, for example, a baseball cap, this is going to be the top of the bill, and this is going to be kind of like the darker, shadowy area underneath. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to take my pinky eraser and I'm going to eliminate a few of those original lines because we don't need them any longer. Underneath this wrinkle here, I'm going to eliminate that part that we had begun with originally. And over here on the top part to the bill, we're going to get rid of some of those reference marks. Okay. And at any point during this whole sketch, you can take your blending stump and you can use it to add some blended out darks, shadows in your piece. Okay? And if you don't have a blending stump, which you probably don't, you can use your finger. I think I had mentioned to you in school you can use a rolled up piece of paper, a tissue, what have you. Okay, make it work. Okay, now here's the floppy part to the cap. I'm going to come in on the bill a little bit, but I'm not going to go as far over as that original oval. So I'm going to come in right about here, and I am going to put this wrinkle just a little bit higher than the top of the original oval. Okay, I'm going to use my fingers, so I'm going to practice what I was preaching to you earlier. Okay, so there's part of the fabric of the cap, and it meets another puffy part to the hat because the fabric kind of goes up and peaks at the top of the head. Alright, so right about where this curvy line began, up above it is the peak of the cap. And it comes over here to this side and extends out further to the left than this particular corner right there. Okay, so it comes out a little wider, curves down, and connects to that original part of the bill with another little curvy wrinkle. Alright, so these are gestural lines again, because I'm not quite sure where they will end up. This guy's going to meet this part to the cap. I'm going to maybe fluff this part out just a little bit. Okay, so there's a nice wrinkle in there. Comes up here and peaks in the center. Comes over here, connects to the bill. Alright, I'm going to take my pinky eraser and I'm going to get rid of lines that I no longer need. So I no longer need the top of that oval. I'm going to get rid of it. And I no longer need the top portion of that curvy line that we put in to reference. Okay. And we're going to wipe it clean of any eraser residue. And I think what I'm going to do is maybe turn my page slightly sideways, and I'm going to go head back and reestablish some of these lines. You probably know by now that I can talk a whole bunch, and I could work on these drawings all day long. And some of you guys and girls are the same way. You get into a project or a drawing, and you really get lost in that particular piece of art, which is a great thing, especially in these particular strange days that we've been experiencing of late. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to smudge it up here a little bit with my blending stump. And we'll add to this portrait a little bit each and every day this week. And by the end of the week, you'll have another grade ready to turn in. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the facts on Leonardo. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of sketching that we did today. Keep your paper handy because we're going to add to it tomorrow. And I wish you a great start to your day, a great start to your week, and as always, I say to you, happy drawing. Until we meet again, this is Mr. K, your art teacher, wishing you a fantastic day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.